Hello and welcome to my new program, which is A Glass of Cava. You know me from A Cup of Coffee, but we have now gone on to Cava. It's better for late afternoon or whenever you're watching this. I still have guests, and my guest today is a lady that I think most of the world knows. Maybe the younger generation, maybe not so much. My guest is the lovely XAVIERA Hollander, who was known for her book, The Happy Hooker. And she titillated people about her sexual adventures. But now XAVIERA has changed her way in writing. It's a different era for her. She has written two books. One is written about her late father, who was a doctor, MICK de VRIES, and he was a doctor in Indonesia. And in fact, that's where XAVIERA Hollander was born. And then they went back to Holland. He ended his life, and XAVIERA is still living there with her lovely husband, Philip. So we've got XAVIERA talking about angels of death, which sounds a little bit, do I want to really hear about that? But you want to, because it's a wonderful book that has been written by her father. But you know what? XAVIERA is going to tell us, I call her Z. XAVIERA is going to be telling us about the book. And then she's written another book as well. And that is called XAVIERA's Magic Mushrooms. And I have no idea why my darling XAVIERA has called it that. And it's a novel, and it's nothing to do with anything like The Happy Hooker. So I've said enough. I'm now going to introduce you and say hello to XAVIERA Hollander, my guest on Glass of Cava. Well, I have now got my wonderful friend, XAVIERA Hollander. And as I told you in the intro, she is not going to be talking about the happy hooker today because she's changed. But in dedication to you, I am wearing my Venus brooch, which a girlfriend of mine makes in Barcelona. So it's handmade. And this is dedicated to you, my dear friend, from the happy hooker days.
Yeah.
How are you?
Well, I'm working on a major book with lots of pictures from way back till today, and it's going to be an ebook as well as a spoken book, and that should be out in about a month, I think. So in the springtime. And well, in the meantime, we is my lovely husband, who you know,
Philip,
uh,
I know so well.
yeah, Philip de HAAN is his name, and
Yes.
he is my right hand man actually for everything. He's a great cook. I have to always watch out that I don't put on too much weight. So he makes me exercise, makes me do exercise.
Good.
I don't walk a lot because I'm 82 years old. And of course, people know me. Some of them who are at the same age, they know me for half a century.
Do
And
you
I
know
used to
what?
live in Marbella, as you know. That's where we know each
Yes.
other from.
Do you,
For bed and breakfast. And since you know a lot of Dutch people, I think, in Spain, if
absolutely.
they ever want to come to Holland and don't have a place of themselves, they're most welcome to stay with us and have dine and wine and breakfast and talk shows and everything.
I've done it. I've been there, and it's absolutely, you have wonderful food, you have eclectic people, and it's just the best fun B&B that I've ever been to. So I
Yeah.
know
So
about.
when are you coming? When are you coming?
Well,
Bring
I've
some
got a
friends with you.
girlfriend who is going to be Madeline Bell, the singer. She is going to be performing in Amsterdam in April. She's doing the Sarah Vaughan tribute. So maybe
Okay.
I will come then. But you know what? Next, in 3 weeks' time, I'm 82 as well.
Oh
So
well,
we're on
shake
the
hands.
same level. But you know what? We're not talking age now. We are talking
No.
about the two books. First of all, Your father, I did not know that he was a doctor. I knew that he was in Indonesia, and I know that that's where you were born, but I didn't know that he was a doctor. And he's written this
Psychiatrist. He
amazing
was a psychiatrist as well.
psychiatrist. Yeah. And he has written this amazing book, Angel of Death. And give me a little bit of a background from you telling me about the book.
About this book. Well,
Yes.
my father was in Holland in those days, many years ago, before the war, the best friend and study friend of Holland's most famous author at that time, Simon Vestdijk. I mean, these people who are not Dutch, they don't know who he is. But Simon Vestdijk was like a very famous author. And he and my father, they became very close friends. They went walking with the dog, and they talked about astrology, astronomy, literature, poetry. But my father also started painting, like a Sunday painter. In fact, if you could have a look at my room, there are some paintings hanging here. So whoever comes here will show them. And but it was also a bit like a love affair. My father would give Vestdijk a painting, and Vestdijk would give him a book, because he's written many books. But of course, if my father didn't like the book, he would tell him, and he would give him back the book. But also Vestdijk, if he didn't like my father's painting, he'd give him back his paintings. So
That's
it
a
was
wonderful friendship.
yeah, it was a semi-homosexual relationship because they
Ah,
couldn't live without each other and they couldn't live with each other. And so I seem to have inherited his talent as I've published millions of books, but also I wrote a Penthouse sex advice column for 24 years with Bob Guccione in Call Me Madam. And that appeared in many languages. So no wonder my fame went on and on and on because I found publishers in many countries. Even in Russian, I have a Russian version here, and all
good.
I could read is 200,000 copies sold, and I never even got a fur coat or anything from Russia except that statement. I never got paid from them.
Never mind. Let's talk about what the book that he wrote. First of all, he was a psychiatrist, so he obviously worked with doctors, patients, nurses, and from what I have read of the book, he a nurse who was very kind to women and not very kind to people, and she was psychologically inferred and was a murderess,
It
correct?
was, oh, murdered. Yeah, right. That's the
Yes,
story of yeah, right.
yeah. So that is the story of his book, Angel of
Yeah,
Death, which he wrote years ago, and you have updated it and you have re released it. Is that correct?
I did.
He had
And
a
it was a
tough
very
life.
interesting story. She was a naughty nurse, and she killed most of her patients, except at one point she met one of her patients who really was ill and about to die, and he was a violinist, and he actually died in her arms with his violin in his arms, and she really, well, hated that because she wanted to keep him alive. So for once, her murderous attempts didn't work. And at the end of the book, which is even weirder, she is locked up to die. They want to kill her, but she also wants to write the book. So she had a pencil and a piece of paper, a scrap of paper she found somewhere, and somehow the pencil broke the pen, the point, and then she called for the man who put her in prison, give me another pencil or a pen, I want to write something. And they rejected her. And I think she got hung afterwards. And that was her fate. And so the
And
one
that,
she really loved, he died involuntarily. I'd rather speak about some of my other books. I've written many, many
yes,
books.
yes, I
And
know, but I would like to go to your one book that I found very interesting, your magic mushrooms.
right, well, I'm working on it now. It's almost ready in two versions. It's going to be, I found a lot of pictures from 30 years. That's the wonderful thing about the internet. You can find anything. And we have a very good colleague here. He's my Mr. Computer. He's Greek. He doesn't speak many other languages, but he knows all about computers. So he found a whole bunch of pictures, ook of locations. The magic mushrooms is about my trip à la recherche du temps perdu, to the lost time in Indonesia. I was imprisoned by the Japanese and there's been a movie made, a documentary, which came out about half a year ago, and it's on all the television centers anyway, still is. And yeah, that was very difficult. My mother, who was a beautiful, lovely story, how my mother met my father. This is a few years before I came, of course. And he had just come back from a trip to Indonesia. He was a traveling doctor. He studied and he went to Indonesia back and forth. And so she was wearing white gloves, very elegant, French, German was she. And he took her back with a taxi in Amsterdam and fell in love and went on his knees and removed her gloves from her. And she said in German, because they spoke German, ich habe nicht bei Ihnen auf die Schulbanken gesessen. That means I didn't go to the school. We didn't go to school together. Can you please leave my hand, my gloves? And he said, no, I want to marry you. I want to ask you to marry you. 3 weeks later, they were married. And if she hadn't married and escaped Holland, she would have been probably murdered because of the German invasion, as she was half German. So that was love on first sight. But my father was not a very faithful man, I must say. But my
Well,
mother and I and all my girlfriends basically were all very, I would say, trisexual. I'm very bisexual. My mother's dead now, but I'm quite trisexual. I have a girlfriend for the last 40 years already, and she also writes and is a poet. Writing
so
is in our blood.
I want to ask you a couple of questions, so give me a little bit of time to ask you the questions. So, what gave you the inspiration to call it magic mushrooms?
Well, it has to do with my trip. This started actually 45 years ago. It's an old book. Philip found it in the basement. Um, well, I went to Indonesia, Bali, and other countries around there. And then somebody said, let's try some magic mushrooms. I was looking forward to real mushrooms, but they're not mushrooms. Actually, they're little things that grow in the grass somewhere in
Yes.
some parts of Indonesia, but they get you very, very stoned. Now, I've smoked weed, smoked hash, I've done a bit of. I'm not a
You've
drug
done
junkie at
everything.
all. I don't even drink alcohol. Can you imagine? Uh, I used to eat a lot. So anyway, that's where the magic mushrooms come from.
Okay. When you were
Yeah,
in a taxi, you were going to the hotel. You got the inspiration, and from what I have read, you asked the taxi to stop at a music shop so that you could get tapes, so
just
that you could
yeah,
talk into the tapes to start writing the book.
yeah,
And that book is now still being written, but it only took you 3 days to really get the inspiration, and you stayed in your hotel room just writing.
yeah.
And
And
that is,
taping, writing and taping.
yeah, and that has taken you all this time. Now, the book that Philip found in the basement,
Yeah,
was that called Magic Mushrooms or as well?
yes, magic mushrooms.
So it was called that right from the very beginning,
Yeah.
the book. So you are
People
now,
think they're mushrooms, but they're not mushrooms. They're
no,
just
no,
things that grow in the
that,
shit.
that they are the drugs. They are the drugs that make you high. I mean, it's known today amongst the kids, magic mushrooms. It wasn't in my day. I didn't know about it. But then in South Africa, you didn't know about magic mushrooms. Well, in
No, no,
my,
no, no,
in
no,
my
no.
lifetime over there,
Yeah,
you certainly didn't know. You're interested in the psychological area of simple sex that has passed through to you. So, from his psychology, that is of interest to you as well.
How do you think I found out about sex and money? I was a secretary, the best secretary in Holland. I did a con. I always wanted to be number one. My father wanted a son, and I was a girl, so I had to make up for it. I won all kinds of awards, like Manpower, the agency company, and so I learned how to speak two, three, four languages. And then when I started to go to New York, where I was in love, by the way, with a gorgeous guy, a champion swimmer, uh, economist, Jewish boy, who had a beautiful penthouse apartment, midtown Manhattan. And one summer day, and he had asked my father, who was still alive in Holland, for my hand. I want to go to New York and meet your daughter there, and I want to marry her. He said, wonderful, wonderful. However, we never got to marry. So at one point, a summer day, on the balcony, on the terrace, I said, "My God, John, I'm 3 weeks over time. I may be, God knows, I may be pregnant. So how about this wedding?" He said, "No, why are you trying to trick me?" And I said, "Well, in that case, I might as well jump." I've always been a bit suicidal. Death has always been a very important subject. So I was going to climb over the balcony, and he said, don't jump. What are the neighbors going to say?" I said, "My God, like I can't do anything." Right. I suddenly realized pain and pleasure could well go together. And this is the beginning for me about sadomasochism. So I studied the subject. But my parents in Amsterdam, my father was a doctor, psychiatrist, he was very, very bright. They had big books, Médecine de France, French books, and all I could read is about syphilis or all kinds of sexual. There was no AIDS yet, but it was like not very nice to have sex. And thank God in America, I learned how to enjoy sex. So when I had the job in a consul, Dutch consul as secretary, got paid for very little, by the way, mid Manhattan, but the building full of handsome men, gray flannel suits, going home afterwards. But at lunchtime, I would quickly take the bicycle, go to my apartment, have a quickie for a glass of orange juice. So, which something like that I have here now, always. And but there was a very attractive woman of about 28, and I was 22, sitting next to me or at the end of the bar. And she said, "Honey, you keep going away with somebody and come back in a new dress and all that for a glass of orange juice. Why don't you charge?" I said, "No way. I wasn't thinking about prostitution." But come to think of it, I realized, yes, why not? Because they have their wives at home and they cheat on their wives. So that's how I started. And the phone number I bought from a very wealthy South African madam who was retiring, marrying a client, by the way. The phone number was very easy: Murray Hill 8 2468, the number to call when you want to get laid. So I didn't have to give people a erection and demolition service card. I just gave them that number. And that's how I started in the business and got involved in a massive crime commission system. And so I got discovered by Robin Moore. Have you ever heard about Robin Moore? He wrote The Green Beret, The French Connection, world famous books. No, and only now, about 2 weeks ago, I found out from the girl who helped him write the books that he made about $500,000 with my title, my book. And I never saw a penny of it. But I'm not poor anyway.
But you know what?
Because I had this job with Penthouse for 25 years.
Yes. You were asked to leave the United States.
Sure. With my Bagel the Beagle. I had a beagle dog.
Beagle dog, yes. How did you feel? Were you escorted out?
Yes, definitely. On the film I just saw last week, which has been playing over and over, I was escorted out, and everybody said, "Miss Hollander, can I have your autograph? Can you?" No, 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 no. But you see this with other stars on television. They get bothered and bugged, and they don't want to sign when they just come out of jail or so. We're going to be to jail also, of course.
You have?
I love watching Louis Theroux with his stories about jail.
Yeah, he's a very, very clever journalist. Very clever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He does one of the worst, heaviest how do you call it,
Programs.
jails.
Yeah.
Tonight I'm watching film two of him.
You are giving him publicity because this program goes out on my YouTube, which is at SandyK9424. So this is my having a glass of cava with XAVIERA Hollander, and she's telling us all about her early life, but she's also publicizing very good journalists and programs. And of course, your B&B I've stayed in. I love it.
And I've launched my father's book here, the the one about
The
Indonesia.
the
I
angel
did that
of
in
death.
our. By the way, we have a very lovely. We have the attic, which is it can sleep 2 to 3 people, and we have a lovely the Goliath room. It's on the first floor, and they all have balconies and terraces. And we have a lovely doggy. And we have live-in personnel, so very honest.
Yeah.
And
And
of course, I've launched my father's book here, the the one about
the
Indonesia.
the
I
angel
did that
of
in
death,
our list.
which you sent me the picture of, which I've actually am showing on the program, and I'm also showing the cover of magic mushrooms, Xaviera's magic mushrooms, so that people can see both books covers and they can look in the internet to see to get a précis of the story, because your father was a psychiatrist, psychological, and it's followed through to you. He was sexual, homosexual, but partially, same as you. So really, it has come through the line of your father. Was your mother
I was
strictly
gay too. My mother was.
No
I
way.
introduced I introduced my mother to a very famous lesbian photographer, a female, who said, "Hello, my name is Rosetta. I'm a lesbian." She said, "I didn't go to school with you. Just get me a whiskey, please." But Rosetta introduced my mother to a lot of very interesting fashion designers and models and everything. She's had a very full life, but she did drink a bit too much. I don't touch cigarettes. I don't touch alcohol,
No,
but I'm not boring.
I know when I've been to parties of yours, you've never ever had anything but orange juice. Everybody else has been drinking, but you haven't been. But you say that your mother had a full life. Severa Hollander, my goodness me, have you had a full life? Really? And I am looking forward when the book is finished. You and Philip, let me know
Try
one
on my
of.
website, bb@xavierhollander.com. It's a very
Okay,
simple. At our,
okay,
I also will send MailChimps letters every 2 months. So if
yes.
anybody is interested in contacting me, bb@xavierhollander.com, you can get an email from me back, and I'll make a note to send you the latest news. But once every 3 months, I will do a major book or so.
Good, good. Well, I know that I get every 2 months your letters, and I
Yeah,
love them and I read them. And I just read about Philip's trip to northern
Spain.
Spain,
Yeah,
which
he
amazed
escaped. He
me.
escaped for me.
Yes, I don't know how you managed without him.
No, I don't know. I have well-trained people working. I've got this
Yes,
Greek boy,
yes.
and they're
No,
good cooks. And Philip
yeah,
is an excellent cook. So he prepared the food, dietetic, because I wasn't to put on weight. No more
yeah.
sweets, no more chocolates, or maybe a choc or something like that. But they were freezing the things in that I should eat morning, noon, and night.
So both of you have had full lives. I have had such fun talking to you again because I haven't spoken to you for so long. And now I know what you are busy doing. So I've read part of The Angel of Death. I've read part of Magic Mushrooms. And now I'm waiting to read the full book when it is ready. And I know that I will get it via
Right.
emails that come through. And in the meantime, I want to say stay healthy, stay away from sugar, just cheat from time to time. You just need a
Yeah, yeah.
little bit of cheating. And thank you so much for joining me in A Glass of Cava. And to my viewers, I say, I am sure you found out a lot about Xaviera Hollander, especially the younger generation, because our
Yeah,
generation knows about Xaviera, but the younger generation may just be learning about this amazing lady who's had an incredible life. So in the meantime, I say, thank you, Xaviera. Take care. God bless. I'll see you
adiós,
soon. And,
adiós. Hasta
and
la
to my,
próxima vez.
muchísimas
Bye
gracias.
bye.
Hasta pronto. My viewers, bye bye for now. Take care.